Broadcasting from New York City to the world, it's the G-Man Interviews.
Welcome. Michael Long was a small businessman in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and is currently chairman of the New York State Conservative Party. He served his country in the United States Marine Corps and was honorably discharged in 1961. A volunteer for United States Senator Barry Goldwater's 1964 campaign for president, Mr. Long registered as a member of the New York State Conservative Party that same year. In 1968, he was elected as a district leader of the Conservative Party and went on to be elected chairman of the Kings County Conservative Party in 1972 and vice chairman of the State Conservative Party in 1974. In 1975, he was elected to one term as the chairman of Community School Board 19 in Brooklyn, and in 1981 became the first registered conservative to serve on the New York City Council, representing the borough of Brooklyn as its at-large member until 1983. In 1980 and again in 1984, Mr. Long proudly cast his vote on behalf of New York State for President Ronald Reagan as a member of the Electoral College. He continued his leadership in the Conservative Party, being elected executive vice chairman in 1985 and ultimately state chairman in 1989. In 1994, under the leadership of Chairman Long, the Conservative Party succeeded in providing the margin of victory for the historic election of Republican conservative Governor George Pataki and Attorney General Dennis Vacco. At the 2010 CPAC in Washington, D.C., the American Conservative Union Foundation presented Mr. Long with the Charlton Heston Courage Under Fire Award. He has received several other awards for community service, including the Knights of Columbus Pro Patria Award, the Bishop Mugabero CYO Award, and the Kiwanis Club Man of the Year Award. Mr. Long has appeared on both national and local news programs, including Crossfire, Hardball, WABC Radio, Face Off, and Inside City Hall on New York 1, to name a few. On August 11th of this year, I traveled to the chairman's Bay Ridge office to discuss a range of issues, which included the scandal involving Governor Andrew Cuomo, the controversy surrounding the death of Eric Garner, the Reverend Al Shapton, and how Republicans can win the upcoming midterm elections and the White House in 2016. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the show, Mr. Chairman.
It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be with you.
I want to start with the scandal surrounding Governor Cuomo. An article on your website refers to it as Moreland Gate. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this and why?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it is 7.5 to an 8. And the reason why is because he formed the commission. And the problem that him forming the Moreland Commission, which is his right to do so, he put the commission together for wrong reasons. He put the commission together more or less as a threat to legislators because he wasn't getting the legislation he wanted. And made it very clear to them, unless he gets certain legislation, he was going to convene this commission. He didn't get his legislation, and he convened the commission. An investigative body should not be used to get favorite legislation passed. And one of the key pieces of legislation he was looking to get passed was campaign finance, public finance, taxpayers paying for political campaigns. The Conservative Party is opposed to that. I think it's a bad prescription for the taxpayers of the state of New York. If you look at New York City's campaign finance laws, which he was modeling the statewide after, it only creates more corruption. So the very thing he was talking about fighting corruption, the former piece of legislation that he wanted to pass, I believe would only have added more corruption statewide. I think it's unfair to tax people, take money out of their pockets, and give it to candidates that they don't agree with, number one. And it's just a bad piece of legislation. So saying that, and then on top of that, he not only convenes the commission for wrong purposes, but once the commission, and then announces to the world, though, when it was started, that the commission could look at anything and anybody, every place they wanted to look, including his office. Once the commission started to circle their wagons and on a road towards his office, guess what? He ended the commission. Not only did he end the commission, but during the period of time that the commission was in existence, there is clearly evidence that phone calls were made to tell the commission, you don't need to check them out. We don't need you to, pull back on that subpoena. We don't need you to go any further there. He claims it's his commission. He can do what he wants with it. No investigative body can do what they want to do with it if you're going to have a real commission. So the bottom line is he has a habit of bullying people that are not with him, and he evidently had his people bullying his own commission to stop them from investigating people he didn't want investigated, and include himself.
How much of an impact do you think this will have on his re-election bid?
Well, I don't think we've seen the end of it yet. I think now the U.S. Attorney is taking a look at, has taken over all the paperwork from the Mullen Commission. I think he's looking at various legislators. He's looking at the possibility, was there an interference by the governor's office? He's probably looking at the AG. Did he involve himself in this? And he's taking a whole different look at this. So this could have long legs. Now, whether anything happens between now and November, I don't know. But I don't believe the U.S. Attorney is subject to worrying about what Andrew Cuomo. The only thing that would stop the U.S. Attorney from going further if a phone call was made from Holder's office. But right now, I believe this has legs. I think it's created a problem for the governor. And while people aren't paying attention to it now, it could have an effect. It clearly or evidently already has had an effect on Cuomo's campaign, because he's spending a ton of money already against a candidate who I support, who hasn't gained any traction yet. But he's pulverizing him on TV with, right now up to $3 million he spent pounding away at him, trying to paint him as some kind of right-wing extremist, the guy who is out of the norm while he's the county executive of Westchester and has been very successful there and has governed very well there, got himself reelected, and the last thing he is a right-wing wingnut in plain English.
Prior to the scandal, how did you view the governor's performance?
The first year in office, I had high hopes for him. I thought, well, maybe we're going to see something. I didn't support him. I didn't vote for him. But he promised that he wasn't going to raise taxes. He promised he was going to start lowering regulations and mandates and get the state moving again. Well, he broke all those promises. And while I was very encouraged the first year, he got budget in on time. He didn't raise taxes that year. It didn't take long after that he broke his word. He, in fact, did raise taxes. He says he didn't. He raised taxes by $1 billion 2 years ago. He hasn't relieved New York of its state mandates, which, if you go to any place throughout the state and talk to the county execs, part of their problem of trying to govern is that all the mandates that they've been saddled with by Albany, and that's all cost them money, and unable to govern properly, and they've been forced to raise taxes on each county. And New York State is now in a position where we are basically almost dead last 50th in all performances. Since he's been governor, 400,000 people have just picked up and left, went to other states, whether it's Jersey or Georgia or North Carolina or Florida or Texas. But we are losing the best of the best because it's not plausible to live here to some people. And if they can, they pick up and go. They just can't make it here. What's happening upstate New York, kids go away to college and never come back home because there's no jobs up there. All one has to do is, everything is generated out of this city. If this city keeps going on the road, it's starting to go. And in all honesty, and the economy of the city goes, this whole state's just going to collapse, absolutely collapse. So we got a real serious problem. And while I had high marks for him the first year, and I was taken back and was very surprised, he has reverted back to his liberal roots and just worried about himself and re-election and doing what he needs to do today, not looking at what the future is for the state of New York. And that's what I think he's done wrong.
Rob Astorino, a Republican conservative gubernatorial candidate which you support, is receiving a great deal of support in his effort to unseat the governor. For voters who may not be familiar with his political or professional background, what specific skill sets does he possess that would make him an exceptional governor?
Number one, I think he's an excellent listener. He listens. I think he really is compassionate. He's even-tempered. There's no signs of him screaming and yelling as Andrew Cuomo does. He has governed really well in Westchester. He has been able to sit down with Democrats and Republicans and move the county in the right direction. As county exec, he has not been afraid to sit down and take on the union's demands. Not that he's anti-union. He certainly is for the union worker, but the union leadership, which in many cases throughout the state of New York is driving hard bargains and taxpayers are left paying the bill. He sat down and came up with decent contracts. He also sat down and wasn't mowed over by the federal government. There's a big housing issue in Westchester, okay? Whereas the federal government, HUD, Cuomo's former playground, demanding to change the shape and dimensions of communities in Westchester, forcing the county to build housing in certain communities. You know, Westchester is a very unique, matter of fact, I was there only last week, a very unique and beautiful community. Houses are on large plots of property. Housing is on hills. It's a very well integrated county. Democrats outnumber Republicans, I believe like 2-1 on the way to 3-1, and he got himself elected. So he's not fighting to hold people out or prevent people from coming into Westchester. He's fighting to maintain Westchester, the people of Westchester want it to be, and not being ruled by the federal government with their demands and their mandates of what they think is best for Westchester.
Complete this sentence. In order for New York Republicans and conservatives to achieve victory in November, our emphasis must be placed on the issues of
jobs, taxes, the economy. We have clearly a failed economy here in the state of New York. Proof of the pudding is Andrew Cuomo's campaign, Startup New York. Startup New York, that means if you're starting something up, it means everything was standing still. All right? And it's a false campaign. He's using taxpayers' money. He wants to give people tax-free zones, but you have to be located next to a university or a college in New York. It's a bad policy. You know what? Instead of the governor really taking a look at the state of New York, and we don't need to segregate a particular area and do favors for certain people who live in a certain area by a college to start up a business. Why can't we lower taxes across the board, across the whole state? Why can't we alleviate the mandates that the state imposes upon the counties? Why can't we lift the restrictions and regulations that hamper the growth of business in the state of New York? I submit to you, we do that. We create the private sector jobs. We don't need government to create jobs. We need private sector jobs. And the way you do that, you make this state business friendly, not only in certain areas, but throughout the entire state of New York.
And you don't feel that's the case now?
It's not the case now. Okay. Absolutely not the case now. If it was the case now, we wouldn't be losing 400,000 citizens in the last 3.5 years. They didn't all leave here because they were retiring. They left here because the outcome is, and the tax levies on citizens, if you're successful, is tremendous. And he just raised taxes, like I said, a couple of years ago, $1 billion the state generated from it, and denies that he raised taxes. He calls it tax reform, raised taxes.
Hydraulic fracturing is another major issue in the state of New York. an organization known as Artists Against Fracking, which consists of Yoko Ono, her son Sean Lennon, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert De Niro, just to name a few, have become very vocal and very active in the New York community on this issue. Where does your organization stand with regard to regulation?
We don't stand with the individuals who are stopping the progress and hurting the future of the state of New York by not allowing fracking. It's clear that the governor is intimidated by the extreme environmental groups that won't let fracking take place in the state of New York. All one has to do is go right over the border and look at Pennsylvania, how the place is booming. All one has to do is take a look at the Dakotas and find out that a job in McDonald's, they're paying $18 an hour starting salary in McDonald's because of energy industry that has just created tremendous growth in their states. Pennsylvania, every place it's taken place, it has created jobs and growth and brought tremendous wealth to the local communities and was able to lower taxation. So the governor has, while he talks about he wants to create jobs and he wants to see New York grow, New York's not growing. New York is dying on the vine. And one of the reasons it's dying is because him not allowing and not having the courage to stand up to those environmentalist groups and say, look, New York needs this. We have gas right under our feet. We can do it safely. We can do it without harming the environment. We will make sure we do it without harming the environment. But he doesn't have the courage to do that.
Having said that, I've read news reports that studies are underway to determine if there's a correlation between earthquakes and fracking, given the number of tremors that have been experienced in certain states. If it is determined that there is a direct correlation, would you still hold that position?
If that, let me just say this. There are been, ever since fracking has begun, there are more studies and more movies and more misinformation that has been going out there. Saying that, naturally, I would certainly have to take a serious look if there was proof that there's a direct correlation. And I think everyone else would too. I don't believe that's the case. I believe every time one of the studies are passed so that you can frack, someone comes up with a new idea why we should stop fracking because we have to have another study. This time, maybe there's some earthquakes are involved here. I think it's time to move on, and New York needs a growth economy. And one of the things that could help New York State, and certainly upstate New York, and all one has to do is travel up there and see how desperate it is fracking.
It's an incident recently here in New York that has not only impacted the state, but it's had a national impact. And that is the question surrounding excessive force and the death of Eric Garner. Did you happen to watch the video? And if so, what was your reaction, immediate reaction?
I did watch the video. My immediate reaction is that a police officer jumped on Mr. Garner's back, had him around his neck, okay? Did not, and I still don't, I've seen the video a number of times, as we all have, because it's on the news all the time. I didn't witness, I'm not a doctor, I didn't witness choking. I didn't witness that it was such a grip that that's what brought him down. I think it was just the force of the cops pulling him down. I think it's an awful thing that happened. I think it's an awful, anytime anyone's life is taken or lost, I think it's an awful, sad commentary. I believe the police didn't go there with the intention of trying to choke somebody. Mr. Garner made the mistake of not listening to them and instead of resisting arrest, he was asked to put his hands behind his back. He evidently didn't want to do that. Mr. Garner is gone, lost to his family. That doesn't solve anything. And that cop's future is probably finished because of the political ramifications of this whole incident, okay? So, once again, you asked me what I saw. I didn't see choking. Did I see arm around the man's neck? Yes, I did. There's a difference between that and an actual chokehold. I didn't see a chokehold. Once again, I said I'm not the doctor, but the doctors have even said, haven't said, but people have said that Mr. Garner had diabetes, heart problems, asthma. So all that excitement may have brought about his demise, which is a very sad thing.
Rank-and-file members of the New York City Police Department, including union officials, have expressed outrage over the fact that Commissioner Bratton and Mayor Bill de Blasio took part in the City Hall conference with Reverend Al Sharpton. Many of them believe Bratton and Mayor de Blasio are fanning the flames of anti-police sentiment and racial discord in New York City by aligning themselves with Shapton, whom they view as destructive and divisive. Do you agree with their assessment of Shapton in the City Hall conference?
I absolutely do agree with their assessment. Look, the Reverend Shapton fans the fires of racism. I don't see how the mayor, in clear conscience, could have even sat him down to his left at that conference, with Bratton on the right, and the mayor is supposed to be in charge of the city. And actually, Shapton made a fool out of both of them. He's a very articulate, well-spoken guy, but he really put his finger in both their eyes, and I think hurt the mayor severely. I'm not a fan of the mayor, let me tell you. I know the mayor is part of Al Sharpton's philosophy. They get along very well. But Shapton abused his privilege, or the honor, that the mayor was trying to bestow on him, and took over the meeting. And fair commentary, who is the mayor of the city of New York? Is it Al Sharpton, or is it Bill de Blasio? And I think if you go on the street and anybody who's aware of what took place, most people are going to be saying Al Sharpton is in charge here. Even so much, when he announced that he was going to march over the bridge, the Verrazano Bridge, it wasn't the mayor who said, no, you're not. You're not going to march over the bridge. You're free to protest someplace, but you're not going to tie up this city. He didn't have the courage to do that. So what happens? Al Sharpton says, I've been thinking about this. Maybe we won't march over the bridge because we don't want to cause any aggravation to anybody. He winds up taking the lead. The governor is silent on it, doesn't come down on Shapton. The mayor doesn't come down on Shapton. Matter of fact, Bill Bratton passes it off to the MTA. Couldn't make his own decision, saying, as police commissioner, this is a bad thing. And I'm advising the mayor to tell Reverend Shapton to take his demonstration someplace else. Matter of fact, I'd like to advise him that he's not doing any good by having demonstrations. Why don't we let the justice system work instead of trying to intimidate the justice system? I mean, that's what Shapton's doing here. He's trying to intimidate the DA of Staten Island. He's trying to intimidate the justice system. He's trying to prejudge all the facts of this case and for his own political gain.
I spoke with a U.S. Marine who served 2 tours of duty in Iraq about the Garner incident and the unusual number of killings of unarmed black men by NYPD officers. And he says something rather profound when comparing military and police protocol. He noted that while in Iraq, he and his fellow Marines went by something known as ROE, also known as Rules of Engagement, which states that you do not fire on an enemy combatant unless they fire at you. He went on to make the point that an enemy combatant on foreign soil has more rights than an unarmed black man on a New York City street. Given the fact that you served your country honorably and proudly as a United States Marine, would you care to respond?
I don't know who the Marine is. I certainly wouldn't agree with that position. I think, look, our police department is a very well integrated police department. It's made up of Hispanics and blacks and whites. I think what gets lost here is the crime against blacks is being committed by blacks throughout the city. And I don't think police go out and do I believe that some people aren't colorblind and there is some racial bias involved in everyone's mind, possibly. Yeah, I guess that's true. But I don't believe police officers, in the main,
and by and large,
go out to seek and to arrest or to take rights away from black people or Hispanic people. I believe young people who become police officers, regardless of what race they are, they come to the table with an enthusiasm to keep safe the city of New York. I think what we're going through right now is, and that's why I disagree with that fellow Marine, what's happening now to our police department with, I'm not sure if policemen are going to take action when they see a problem. They're worried about their job, they're worried about their pension, they're worried about if I am too aggressive in trying to stop a crime or arresting a person who has committed a crime, am I in trouble? And I think that's the thing we have to worry about as citizens. We could roll the clock back. I remember, I've been around a while, maybe some people think too long, but I can remember when the city of New York was totally lawless. I mean, I can remember Times Square. I was Barry Farber's campaign manager. Our headquarters was, when he ran for mayor, was in one Times Square. Times Square was unbelievable. I had to run every night to my car because I had to run past the pimps, the prostitutes, the drug dealers to get to my parking lot in Times Square.
You're talking about the being Mayor Koch administration?
That's right. Absolutely. There was total lawlessness. I initially traveled by train to the campaign office in that year when I was running the Barry Farber campaign for mayor. I was the campaign manager during the primary. And I was coming home 10, 11 o'clock at night on a train. And it was, I had to wind up taking my car into the city every day. Everyone was smoking on the train. Everyone was holding people up on the train. Everybody was shaking people down on the train. The only thing I had to do was take care of myself, get in a car, spend the money in a parking lot, and travel to and from the office by car because it was unsafe to travel on the train. I lived at that time in East New York, so I had to take the J train all the way to home on Crescent Street in Fulham. And it was not a safe ride late at night. And I was a United States Marine, all right, and I was still only 37 years old, so I wasn't fearful of my life, but I knew I was going to end up in a problem because in a number of cases I stopped people from bothering older women, I stopped people from bothering younger people, and I kept getting involved. I knew I was going to have a problem at some point.
Let's move on to national issues. As you may be aware, there are a number of people within the Conservative Party or the Republican Party calling for the impeachment of President Obama. What's your take on that?
I don't think he's done anything to be impeached at this stage of the game, okay? I think he may open the door for impeachment if he goes as he claims he's doing, or the indications are that he's going to do, if he does something very vast on immigration without Congress. If he decides to do something
An
like
executive
order on immigration, that may open the door for impeachment proceedings or process, because I believe he would clearly have broken the law then. He can't have it his way and say that we're going to give amnesty to 11 million people who have broken the law. I think Congress is the official body there. I don't believe there's anything right now, presently. I think lots of people in both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, are using the word impeachment to raise money. The Democrats, with their letters and mailers and emails, are saying we need to stop the Republicans from impeaching President Obama. Please send us money. The Republicans that are playing the game of are trying to raise money are saying we need to move forward to impeach the President of the United States for all the things he's done wrong. Please send us your money. So I think it's part of the fundraising game of both conservative Republicans and also liberal Democratic progressives that are fanning the fires and the talk of impeachment, and I don't believe there's anything there at this stage of the game.
A couple of months ago, North Korea had put out a statement, and they called President Obama, or they referred to him as a wicked black monkey. And just last week, on President Obama's birthday, Russians had projected an image of President Obama wearing a little party hat and as a monkey with a banana going in and out of its mouth. As bad as those situations were, what I found even more interesting was the fact that there wasn't much of a response from either party. And I was wondering if you could offer a reason as to why that was the case.
I pride myself as a guy who is involved, and I'm going to be honest with you, I am hearing this from you for the first time, and I believe what you have said, okay? And I think if the reason why you have not heard an outcry from these ruthless dictators, North Korea, murderers, starving their own people, okay? Russia, who is invaded the Ukraine and took over part of it already and shooting down, being responsible for shooting down passenger planes. Barbaric at best, if I can say. And why we haven't heard an answer to their foul claim about the president is very simple. I would say the mainstream media and even Fox, if they did play it, I missed it. I've heard it for the first time here today, sitting here with you. But I think I categorize the perpetrators of those statements what they really are. But maybe it was so outlandish, the statements are so vile that it wasn't even picked up.
Just disregarded.
Disregarded. You know, only out of respect that they didn't want to lend credence to this vile statement. Okay, simple as that. Look, I'm not a fan of Obama philosophically, but those are vile statements. Okay, simple as that.
A battle is underway for the soul of the Republican Party. You've got hardcore Reagan Republicans going up against the neocons and the Tea Party. Do you believe this situation will jeopardize your party's efforts to obtain the White House in 2016 or to be able to compromise on certain issues going forward?
Well, I think it has had an effect in previous presidential elections. I do believe if the Republicans and the conservative movement and the Tea Party people wind up, if some candidate rises to the occasion that can bring them all together, it will have a positive outlook. If the Republicans nominate a candidate that tries to push aside the conservative wing of the Republican Party and the Tea Party people, which are part of the conservative wing also, they're really just some people that broke away from the established conservative wing of the party. So this fight has been going on since, and I think I can speak with some clarity about this. These divisions have been going on since I've been involved in politics. In 1964 was my first presidential race, Barry Goldwater. And the mainstream Republicans, and the reason why I became a conservative was the New York Republicans weren't supporting. I was a registered Republican. I went to my wife and I registered Republican because Barry Goldwater was running for president. When I found out that all the local Republican clubs in my community, when I was trying to find out where I could go work for Barry Goldwater and help him, and I went to the clubhouses and no signs, no paraphernalia, no literature, no bumper stickers, and was told by the leaders of the various clubs, "What's the matter with you, kid? Don't you understand? We're not supporting Goldwater." I said, "He just won the nomination for Cow Palace. I'm here and I want to volunteer." And he said, "Well, Rockefeller people, we're not working for him." So this division has been going on for a great period of time. So that division certainly hurt Barry Goldwater back in '64. But the candidacy of Barry Goldwater led us to a beginning of another president. And the guy who gave the speech for Barry Goldwater, Rendezvous with Destiny, was Ronald Reagan. Now, it took Reagan quite a while to get over the hill, but ultimately Reagan was able to unite all factions of the Republican Party. That's what has to happen in 2016. If we're going to be competitive against whether it's Hillary Clinton or whoever it's going to be, we have to unite all the factions of the Republican Party, Tea Party, conservatives, neoconservatives. They have to all come together. Saying that, I'm not sure who that person is at this stage of the game. But also saying that, the way the Democratic Party is starting to act, they maybe divide themselves. Today's headlines in the New York Post: Hillary Clinton ripping Obama apart on his foreign policy. She ran his foreign policy for 4 years. Now all of a sudden, he's done it all wrong, okay? And clearly Obama is no fan of the Clintons and is already engineering to get other people to run against her. So they may divide themselves up, okay? And we may make it easier for the conservative Republicans, hopefully, to recapture the White House. I certainly think we have to do that from a philosophical point of view. I don't believe the country can keep going down the road it's going, following the policies of Obama, following the policies of the progressives that have taken hold, and that's how it goes. But we can't keep rowing those who are participating, taking something from government. That's not how this country was built. This country was built by the private sector, by people who believed in liberty and freedom and their own initiatives and lifted themselves up by their own skills and were successful in forming companies, forming businesses, forming corporations. That's how this country has been successful. We didn't win the West going back a long time ago by an edict of Washington, D.C., giving settlers all sorts of advantages. People, blood, sweat, tears built this country, not government.
You indicated that 2016 will be the opportunity to make the changes necessary in order for the country to be better. But is it fair to say that you have an opportunity prior to that with the upcoming midterm elections?
Yeah, I think if we don't win the Senate back, and it's a tough fight, okay, but we need to win the Senate back. If we don't make any gains or win the Senate, have the Republicans control the Senate, I submit to you that from a philosophical point of view, the Obama administration will run amok, totally amok, for the 2 years. He will do everything that he believes that he's right on, and he will do it and try to empower his point of view, as he's been doing recently, okay? I think he will only increase the pressure, and it will be very difficult. Look, his foreign policy is a failure, okay? We are losing ground across the world. We are no longer seen or worried or feared as a fierce leader for freedom and all. I think we're losing ground nationally, foreign policy level. I think we're losing our economy. It's not good. Companies are picking up and leaving and changing their status of citizens, changing their affiliation to different countries and shedding their American citizenship so they can save money. And it's a very simple solution. Our capital gains are 35%. And instead of hitting those people over the head and calling them unpatriotic, fix the problem. Make us competitive. Lower the corporate tax rate and bring all those companies back and keep all the ones that are here. That's as simple as that. Just lower. John F. Kennedy proved it, and Ronald Reagan proved it. You lower the tax level, you create great wealth, and the government gains more money by lowering taxes because you create a greater economy. So,
what do you make of the argument that Obama is just basically cleaning up the mess that George Bush left behind, and this problem actually started 12 years ago?
Well, let's say that that's partially true, okay? Let's say part of this, and I didn't subscribe to everything that George Bush did. Instead of cleaning up, where's the real direction? He hasn't really turned the ship around. He has, in essence, made it worse and continued it.
But isn't part of the reason is because Congress hasn't worked with him to a large extent?
I think that's a good excuse. But I think as President of the United States, he's entitled for vacation, he's entitled to play golf, he's entitled to do all those things. But what he also really has to do is pick up the phone and bring the Republicans into the White House on a regular basis. Pick up the phone and bring the Democratic leadership from the Senate into the White House and keep them in the rooms until you can get an agreement. He doesn't like to do that, okay? He likes campaigning. He likes giving speeches. Nobody can really give a speech better than he can. Okay? When he's on, he's on. But he doesn't like to do the hard work of making it work and bringing people in a room. You want to quote some arm twisting or just say, hey, folks, we got to lower the tax rate. That's not his philosophy, though. That's the problem. See, the problem is over here, the Republicans are saying we got to lower the tax rate. The Democrats in the Senate, they don't see that. And he doesn't see that. So why can't they come someplace in the middle? And no one's talking to anybody. And you're right. No one is talking to anybody. As President of the United States, he's got to force the conversation. Not with threats, not by bullying, by making it happen. If that means calling them to the White House every second day of the week, bringing them in, that's not happening. Republicans are pontificating on their point of view. Harry Reid is pontificating on his point of view. And Obama is pontificating on his point of view. So you have 3 points of view. Get it all in a room and fight it out and get it done. That's leadership. And he failed on that part.
During their 2012 presidential campaigns, candidates Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum repeatedly made comments about people receiving government assistance that were interpreted as mean-spirited and unfair by voters. Santorum later apologized for comments he made about black people and welfare. It's because of situations like this that many believe the future of the Republican Party is in serious jeopardy. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. Look, I think entitlements is a problem in our country. Welfare cheats is a problem in our country. But I would submit and agree to the problem is if our candidates have not articulated correctly in a Reagan-esque way. This person, Mike Long, wish he could articulate as well as Ronald Reagan did. He was an inspiration to me. I just don't have the gift that he had to bring a country together, to make people feel good about each other. And he wasn't divisive, but he was firm. He was firm and very clear on what he stood for. So
I blame it on. Say that he wasn't divisive if he used terms like welfare queen.
Reagan?
Yes.
No, I think because he was pointing out the abuse to a welfare system. Okay, and I think that's fair game. So I think maybe what has happened, and I don't remember all the statements. I've actually watched most of the debates. I don't remember all the statements, and I think part of the problem is that our candidates have not articulated as clearly, been able to bring people together. There's a way of pointing out about welfare cheats. There's a way to bring out that we cannot continue to grow the welfare system because it's unsustainable. It's the way to talk about government employees and their pensions that have brought havoc to Detroit, okay, and could bring havoc to New York City and maybe bringing havoc to New York City because there's going to be no one who have to pay the bill. Who's going to pay for these pensions that people are getting? Now, I have 3 young men. 3 of my sons are New York City firefighters, okay? And we talk about it. I talk about it with them. And they're aware of the fact that while they're very fortunate to have the benefits they have, and it's a very good job, they're also aware of the fact that they're concerned that down the road, being young fellows, will they get the benefits that they're being promised as of now? And it's a possibility that that could change. So I think there's a way to articulate about welfare, entitlements, and hopefully a candidate comes along that can frame it so that people understand that you don't want to take people off welfare that need welfare. You don't want to starve people, but you don't want to be giving welfare to people so they can buy drugs, drink, and etc.
Mr. Chairman, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure talking. I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much for making the trip here.
Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to contact me to discuss being a guest on the show, feel free to email me at fromthegman@gmail.com. Until next time, stay cool, stay safe, and stay informed.